everybody, Edo here, and today I'm going to talk about 10 great 3-player plus games. Now, it's really interesting because I think I saw a box that was like 3 to 4 players or 3 to 5 players, and I realized that over time I've sort of gravitated away from buying 3 to 5 player games, right? Not party games, but not 1-player, 2-player games, and even though most of the time I probably play games with 3 or 4 people, I just found that I would hesitate to buy games that were 3 to 5. Like as a board game publisher, I also, like if somebody was, or a Kickstarter guy, if somebody was like, hey, I'm making this 3 to 5 player game, I'd be like, can it support 2? But actually there are a lot of interesting dynamics that come out of games that require 3 players, and I think that's why they still exist and prosper. And anyway, so I was thinking about it, and I wanted to go back and look at all the games that fit that category, and in particular, again, not party games, not big, broad, multiplayer, like lots of player games, but really those games that sort of fit into that 3 to 5, 3 to 6 type categories. You know, some of them might be a couple more in here, like one or two of these, but generally speaking, not big party, hidden identity games and that kind of thing, right? And so, again, these are in no order, but lastly, the interesting thing I found is these all are very different genres. Like, each one of these games is a very different mechanic, and so I just thought it was interesting that walking through, getting the 10 I liked most from things that I've reviewed, that this would be the list. I've also included my actual proper reviews of each of these titles in the description, so you can see like a full breakdown with the game and all the bits and all that stuff. So, without further ado, again, not in any order, but up first we have Walk the Plank. I absolutely adore Walk the Plank, and in Walk the Plank you're playing as different groups of pirates, and there's literally planks leading up to a gigantic maw of a creature, and it is a programming game where each player is playing 3 cards face down. We start revealing them, and by revealing them we start pushing people towards the plank, stepping away, and it's basically, do you push, do you dodge, how are your cards manipulating the step forward and step back, and based on how everything's happening and how the different players are going, different groups fall into the maw. There's also some cards you can't play or can't play them a certain number of times per whole sequence, but lots of fun, always a hit with the kids, easy to teach, super visceral thematic, right? Like, you just have these great pirate meeples walking the plank. Easily one of, really a top game for me in general, but I totally dig it. All right, so next up is Dragon's Gold. So Dragon's Gold is a negotiation game where there's a bunch of dragons out who have different hoards on them. Some of the hoards are revealed, they're like gold and different types of crystals on the different dragons, and some are clearly there and some are hidden, like you draw them later and they're not all worth the same amount. But you have these dragons and their hordes, and you're sending crews, hunters and mages to go attack them, and everyone is. And so there's a phase of like saying who you're going to attack. Here's this game. The way the game works is dragons have hit points, and if a dragon is killed, all of those who are at that dragon get a share of the horde. If one person kills the dragon all by themselves, they get all of it. Not worry. But if multiple people are there, you then have 1 minute to successfully negotiate divvying up the treasure. The thing is, it's not based on how many people were there. It's not based on, how much power you brought. It's just a verbal negotiation. And if not every single person agrees, if somebody fights or argues, at the end of the time, you get nothing. You get nothing. It is one of the most intense negotiating games I've played over such a simple thing. I dig it a ton. Lots of players don't, but it's super cool. Next up is Barbarossa. This is an older game. This is like a 3 to 4 player game. But basically, each player is a pile of clay, and you're trying to make an object or a thing, like a chair or a character or whatever. And everyone's trying to guess. But you all do it at the same time, and it's got that sort of guessing mechanic where you don't want to be the first selected or the last selected. You want to be found out in the middle, and you get points based on that. So it's a really interesting sculpture game where like the people who are great at sculpting aren't as good, and the people who are I'm going to have to we'll see. Eli. We'll see what happens with Eli here. But the people who like are terrible, it's got an interesting middle range on the art side of things. So next up, this is probably the one that supports the most players from the list. But this is Fuji Flush. Fuji Flush is a hand management game where you have a bunch of cards from 2 to like 20, and what you're doing is you're playing cards in a row very quickly in ascending order. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And essentially, you want to play the highest number, and if you do, you get to like push the number in. However, if somebody plays a higher number than you, you have to draw another card. It's basically trying to get rid of your hand. But the way it works is you can start chaining card numbers. So like you can go 2, 2, and then it's 4 plus 2 is 6 to get bigger numbers. And so it's got this like everyone's trying to get on the 3 chain to beat the guy who got who had an 8, so you can get to 9. It's really fast. It's really fantastic. Super simple. I mean, it is like a sling type bring with you game. That's just an absolute blast. Next up is Fist of Dragonstone, also known as Fist of Dragon Ones for those who've seen the box. But this is it's like a bidding game that meets Citadels. You have a bunch of different currency types, but basically your characters who have abilities are being revealed, and you're all like bidding or auctioning to get those characters. And if you win that character, you get its ability. And the ability could make something valuable more or less, or let you steal something, or like impact how play is going. So you're just sort of bidding on the character to get it to then manipulate the play. But you have a certain amount of money, so you want to bid on that character, or do you want to wait for the next one, and how the bids go, how it impacts. It's fantastic. It has like a set of base 8 characters that you would play through, but then there's like a whole like 20, 30 others you can add in. A number of these games are sort of hard to get, but really absolutely fantastic blend of sort of Citadel-based characters and roles and auctioning or bidding. So next up is Cryptid. Cryptid is a deduction game where you have this giant map and there's a hidden cryptid or like mystery creature, and everyone is given a piece of information independently in these big books that gives you a hint as to where it is. And ultimately, it's in certain types of regions, but it's really only in one spot. And so players are like guessing locations, and then other players are using their clues to tell them whether that would be a possible place for this creature to exist or not. And so you're like deducting, oh, it's in a mountainous region, but oh, it's in a mountainous region near this thing, and you're just sort of triangulating as you go. Super cool, very interesting, and again, it's really, all of these games have that 3-player, dynamic, because with 2 players it wouldn't work as well, and it wouldn't be fun, or you can make rules, but anyway, so that's Cryptid. Next one, another sort of visual creative one, is Starlink. In Starlink, you have a gigantic sky map, like star map, and you're drawing constellations, and you have to like draw stars, and people are trying to guess what you're drawing. Like, oh, that's a constellation of a candy cane, or of an arrow, or whatever, a crab. But you have to match the stars, and they look like constellations. And again, it's this huge constellation map, and you have a dry erase, but it's a white dry erase. Super fun, easy to play, really dig it. That's another one of those creative ones. Then next is Corporate America by a good friend Teal Fristo. What's the name of his company? It's like Evil. Man, I'm blanking on it. But Corporate America is sort of like it's like an engine builder meets sort of political manipulation, but basically you're manipulating the value of your engine. So you're like you have businesses, and your businesses have different like vectors of value. And there's this whole political corporate thing going on where you're like trying to influence what the world needs, or what's valuable, or what gets deductions. So you're like, you have your businesses, and you're trying to get those types of businesses to be valuable. And it's one of those games where the currency you're earning during the game and using is also your victory points, which is always a hard balance, but it's a lot of fun, really funny, like Stephen Colbert type satirical humor, but over a really solid, rock solid game as well. So coming in next is Pot de Vin. This is a trick-taking game, and it is a trick-taking game for people who love trick-taking games. It's like very much like I think in my video, I'm like, if you should just play hearts or spades first before you play this game, or even diamonds. But in this game, it's a trick-taking game where no player has the trump suit. It flips, and then you're working off of that trump suit, and then they're like very different. Their suits are like characters and guilds. They're characters, but there's like more guilds and suits. But whatever, you're like collecting them, and then you have this interesting scoring with you don't want too few, you don't want too many. It's interesting. Gorgeous components for a small game, super pretty, and I totally dig it. But boy, you need to like trick-taking games. And so last up here is Who Stole the Cookie? Who Stole the Cookie is like a 15, 16 card, small $5 type game where it's a deduction, not as hardcore as Cryptid, but you have face down cards and you can like look at a card over there and reveal or swap, or you're like moving around to find where the cookies are. There was another game that came out later called I think 3 Wishes, which was like similar, maybe in the same company, but really fun game, cute. I used to dig watching my kids try to bluff and be secretive, and that was super cool. So again, like what a wide range of games, and the 3-player brings out a certain type of dynamic that is missing from games. So like going through this list, I'm like, you know what? I love the dynamics that come out of 3+ player games. Why do I hesitate from getting them? Why am I so worried about it not supporting 2 players in particular, when the type of fun requires more players? So anyway, I think those games are great. If any of those types of fun or mechanic fits for you, I really highly recommend checking them out. And if you want the full reviews, you can check out in the description. So anyway, thanks. Bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.